If you were the best hitman in the world, feared by every rival and every bad person on the planet, what would it take for you to give it all up? All the infamy built around your name, the money you get, the praise you're given, what would it take for you to leave it all behind? Well, for this man, it was really simple. Sakamoto was the best hitman in the world, having infamy and praise given to him throughout his career. But then he threw it all away. But what could ever make someone like Sakamoto throw everything from his old life away? Well, it's all really simple. Love. Sakamoto Days released on January 11th, 2025, and after following along all the trailers and announcement for the anime, I was pretty concerned. The summary for the anime sounded stunning, and the early trailers just strengthened the hype for the release. The summary for the anime is as follows. Taru Sakamoto was considered the greatest hitman of all time. Feared by many, he stood at the top of the underground world until he met and fell in love with a woman. As a result, Sakamoto abandoned his life of crime and now works as a convenience store clerk. Leaving his shady past behind proves more difficult than Sakamoto initially imagined. Many of his former rivals and partners do not believe that he truly left the business and show up in hopes of taking him out. Barred from killing, Sakamoto must find creative ways to subdue his enemies and prevent them from bringing harm to his family, his store, and the small town he resides in. And that all sounds cool, right? Well, you'd be half right. Sakamoto Days is really fun to watch. Seeing Sakamoto come up with new ways to subdue enemies without killing them is just different to the rest of the Hitman anime out there. But unfortunately, many people aren't even giving the anime a chance. You see, on January 10th, just a day before the release of Sakamoto Days, Netflix released the opening for the anime. And while half the people thought it looked really good and strengthened the hype, the other half wasn't so kind. People were complaining that the animation was way too generic and basic for an anime coming from TMS Entertainment, the studio behind Sakamoto Days. TMS Entertainment also made titles like Dr. Stone, Baki, Fruit Baskets, and Undead Unluck, which I haven't seen, but the animation looks awesome. But besides that point, people were upset, and with good reason too. One of the most anticipated anime releasing this early year was Sakamoto Days, and the hype that had been building up around it seems to be falling off. But now the day is January 11th, and you know what that means. The first episode is released. The opening scene for Sakamoto Days was pretty cool, and had a small fight sequence which was just Sakamoto killing everyone, along with having animation different than what the opening showed. And then the show actually started, and everyone was right. The animation did seem really generic, like something I'd see from an anime released in the mid-2010s, obviously besides from the parts where they used the shading from the initial opening scene. But as of today, the third episode was released, and they changed up a lot from the initial first two episodes. I also started to notice that the shading they use in Sakamoto Days is different than a majority of the anime I've seen, and that the animation is considerably better now than it was before. Even though most episodes followed the basic same plotline, it's still keeping my eyes glued to the screen and waiting for the next episode. Episode 1 opens up with Sakamoto in a flashback. Cuts to how he got big and retired, and then this guy Shin shows up, tries to kill Sakamoto, but Sakamoto's just that guy and knocks Shin out, where he wakes up in Sakamoto's house to find a home-cooked meal from his wife named Aoi? I'm gonna call her Aoi. After Shin eats, he goes back to the Hitman HQ, which I guess is what it's called, where he begs for Sakamoto's life to be spared, and the head guy's like, yeah, that's chill. But what I didn't tell you so far is that Shin is a psychic, and he can read people's minds, so while the boss's mouth was like, yeah, that's chill, he was actually thinking, no bozo, kill yourself. So Shin starts blasting everywhere, and Sakamoto comes in to save the day because he heard everything that was happening because he bugged Shin's gun. Except he didn't actually kill anyone. So a little fast forward later, Shin works at Sakamoto's store and he's glazing Sakamoto like it's the second coming of Christ. When, oops, he starts talking about how Sakamoto killed everyone, and his wife, whose name is Aoi, since you probably already forgot, overhears this and is like, hey, don't forget if you kill anyone, I'm leaving and taking half your money. And she also mentions something about a family rule, to which Shin is like, yo, what's that? So they start heading over to Chinatown to get some pork buns, when this girl drops right on top of them when running from some hitmen. Long story short, just like the last episode, she's in trouble and Sakamoto helps resolve everything by taking out the two hitmen that never miss their mark. Yeah. So anyways, this girl's name is Lu Xiaotong. She's the mafia family's daughter. Well, was. They're all dead. And she has this key to a family vault. So after all the big bad guys are taken out, she opens the vault to find it's everything that the previous heads of the family considered valuable. Stuff like stuffed animals, gold, alcohol, you know, kind of stuff like that. So fast forward a little bit later, and we see Sakamoto talking the most he's ever spoken since the show came out. Wait, that's not Sakamoto. My fault. This guy's name is Nagumo, and he's there to tell Sakamoto there's a bounty on his head for 1 billion yen, which sounds like a lot, but it's only like $6.4 million, which is still a lot, don't get me wrong, but damn. But here's the thing. If you haven't noticed, Sakamoto hasn't killed anyone since the original opening scene in episode 1, and Aoi mentions this family rule, but I haven't explained what it is yet. So, it's flashback time. Sakamoto and Aoi are on a roof and Sakamoto is giving her a gift, which is quite literally covered in blood, and Aoi didn't really like that. So what does she do? She jumps off the damn roof, just like any normal person would. So how does Sakamoto react to that? He jumps off the damn roof. Like any normal person would. Then Aoi's like, you can't live without me, so you can't kill anymore. And Sakamoto goes, alright, that's chill. So that's the big family rule. If it wasn't obvious before the flashback, which it definitely was, the family rule is that Sakamoto can't kill anyone. So every time he's in a fight in this series, he has to come up with creative ways of taking people out without killing them, if that makes sense. And they're in pretty creative ways. Stuff like hitting this guy with a pot full of soup, or dropping a literal fucking fridge on this other guy. But anyways, I'm starting to get sidetracked. Like I said earlier, there's a big bounty on Sakamoto's head, and everyone is already out to collect it. There's this pizza delivery guy that tries to kill Sakamoto, which obviously failed. But then stuff starts to get a little more interesting. These people, some sort of organization of hitmen, also want the bounty and think Sakamoto is an easy hit. So let's just fast forward a little bit more. Sakamoto takes his family to a theme park, where Lu and Shin are also there with Sakamoto's family. And their job is to protect Sakamoto while not raising suspicion with anyone else. So this janitor, who's part of the organization of hitmen, tries to kill Sakamoto, which obviously fails because Shin was able to read his mind and see what he was thinking. And then there's this guy, which kind of looks like a knockoff of Mahito, but he realizes that if he just doesn't put off a vibe, he can get past Shin, which almost works because Shin didn't realize he was there to kill Sakamoto, but Lu ends up spawning him on the roller coaster, and if it wasn't for her, the series probably would have ended right there. Alright, I'm gonna be upfront with you and ask you to subscribe. Some people like this content and some others don't, and to each their own. But these videos actually do take a long time to make, so just seeing that sub count go up one by one every time I upload is a big motivation to keep making the best content I can. I'm also doing a special surprise for when I hit 1,000 subs, so be on the lookout for that in the Discord. So now Shin is fighting this guy, and he throws daggers which have some poison in them, and yada yada yada. This is getting boring. Let's just go to the interesting part. Shin is wearing a bunny suit, not that kind of bunny suit, and somehow tanks the poison, which was apparently super deadly, and now they're fighting on the main stage. So this guy's like, wow, he's kind of rocking my shit. He wasn't doing that earlier. And that's because Sakamoto was telling Shin exactly what to do. So the guy gets taken out and the episode ends. I mean, honestly, Sakamoto Days is a really chill anime. The shading in the anime is pretty cool, and honestly, if you're into action-packed anime, this is exactly what I would recommend to you. Every episode does kind of follow the same plot, but there's no way to know how this anime is going to go until the next episodes are released. But I will say, the third episode kind of stepped up in the animation department, which was a big difference from the first two episodes. And I like how the story is going so far. If you haven't seen it yet, then I would recommend watching it, because even though I don't really read manga and haven't read the manga for Sakamoto Days, the anime does seem to be a good adaptation, and I'm excited to see where it goes and how the community is going to react to it.